Hey there, everybody. How are you today? Hope everybody is doing well. How's it going? Welcome to Train Your Brain. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me clearly or if it's crackly at all. Oh, good. I'm glad it's good. Perfect. I'm so excited to be here with you guys, talking to you today and this week for Train Your Brain. Welcome. And welcome to all of you who are going to be listening on the replay format as well. I thought that I would just sort of briefly introduce myself to kick us off this morning, this afternoon, whatever time zone you're on. I'm not going to spend a long time talking about myself because my guess is that you have some idea who I am or you wouldn't be here. But I also realize that there may be a few of you that are brand new to me and just heard about this workshop and decided to give it a try. So I want to give you a minute version of who I am. My name's Emily Gibson, and my dream was always to be a stay-at-home mom for my entire life. And I figured I'd be a school teacher till I could have kids. So I went to a small private Christian college in southeastern Idaho, and I got my bachelor's degree in elementary education. I taught third grade and second grade there before I started having kids. And then I became a mom, and I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years. And then I started an accidental career in network marketing, like many of you listening, right? I never planned on being a working mom, but I found that I actually really loved working while being at home with my kids and making money from my phone. And I grew a team to the top of my network marketing company in 18 months. And I've stayed in the top 5, 10, 15, and 20 for the last 7 years straight. After the first 2 years in network marketing, though, I found coaching, and I just fell in love with the power of coaching. I found it to be even more mind-blowing when I applied it to my personal life and my business, though. I have been married for 18 years next month. I have 4 kids, ages 14, 12, 10, and 6, and 1 fur baby. She's a King Charles Cavalier who I treat like a human baby. Anyone else? Any other dog moms like that? I became a certified life coach through the Life Coach School last July and started this coaching practice almost immediately. I have taught for my network marketing company for the last 7 years. I've presented for corporate offices here in Utah, like eBay, and I've also done other corporate coaching work for a major hospital here as well. I still actively build in my network marketing company under 2 different positions that are continuing to just crush it. And it's just so much fun. Anyway, I just love what I do in both my network marketing company and my coaching practice that I own as well. I love being a coach. I love helping people with their mental and emotional health. And I think we have a huge need for it today. I think it's a challenging thing to know how to work on our emotional health. And coaching is not the only way, but it's just the best way for me. It's my favorite way. It's been the most effective way for me. And you've got to find what's effective for you. Okay. So here's what's going to happen today. I'm going to teach you a little bit each day this week, and then I'll email you the recordings each night. You don't ever have to be on live to get the most out of this challenge. You're going to get exactly what you need to get by coming to the exact calls that you show up to this week. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about facts specifically and how facts don't hurt. I named this episode Facts Are Harmless because they aren't painful. Facts are harmless. I'm going to spend probably about 15 or 20 minutes doing a little bit of teaching on that today and every day this week in a different way. But I would love for this to be interactive. I'm going to ask you guys to pop in the Q&A if you can. If you're not driving or something and you're in a safe spot and you can participate, great. There's a Q&A box for you. And that's where I can interact with you. I'm going to look in there. You guys are saying hi in the chat. Hello to you. Tell me where you're from. I would love to know where you're from. Hello, Ricky, in the Q&A box. Yay, you found the Q&A box. I'm so glad. Montgomery, Texas. Is that what you were saying there? Montgomery, Texas. So nice to see you. Burlington, Kentucky. Hi from Iowa, South Carolina, Indiana, Georgia, Omaha, Washington State, Missouri, Louisiana. Oh my gosh. Hello to all of you. Pennsylvania. Look, we have the whole country here. This is so fun. So fun. Fantastic. All right. So that is where I can interact with you in that Q&A box. So hello to everyone who's saying hi there. I'm also going to be taking volunteers to bring you on live for those of you that are open to do that. And we're going to be here for about 60 minutes each day, every day of the week this week. And I want to spend as much time as possible in the interactive portion of this because you can hear me teach on my podcast every week, but this is something so fun that we can do together back and forth. So we're going to build each day on the concepts that I'm teaching you. And as the week goes on again, you'll find that you'll gain a deeper understanding of what I'm teaching. But please feel free to ask questions. I'll let you know when the time comes to raise your hand if you want to volunteer to be coached, and it's going to be so much fun. Okay, so I think that's it. Now, let's talk about facts. In our lives, there are facts and there are stories, but our brains like to think that the stories are also facts sometimes. The reason I want to start here is because this is so foundational to everything else that I'm going to teach you ever. Any of the work that I do with my clients and on my own brain begins here. We have to understand this. Now, the concept itself sounds simple, but we're going to dive into some of the application and you're going to see how it becomes complicated because of the way our brains are. Our brains are amazing and smart. You are so brilliant. And the way our brains interpret the world is incredibly intricate, as they are supposed to be. So we don't want to change that about your brain. We just want to become aware of it. And by the end of this week, my hope for you is that you will get at least a little taste of what it's like to direct your brain rather than have your brain just directing you. Okay, so I want to talk about facts first. Sometimes I call facts circumstances. You're going to hear me refer to this as that. And you'll see as we go throughout the week, we'll put this into the coaching model that you may have heard me talk about before or teach before. And circumstances are facts and they don't hurt. Facts are just facts. So what I mean by facts are these are the things that are outside of us. They are other people, what they say, what they think, what they do, and none of it actually hurts. It's our thoughts about those people, those things, what they do, that are our stories. And our stories are what hurt us. Now, when I say hurt, I'm talking about emotional hurt. And I get the question a lot about, what about abuse? What if somebody is hitting you? And I'm going to speak to that later, okay? But we're going to talk through those extreme examples, and it's still true, but there's a lot of things that I need to clarify around that. So I'm not saying that you should let people hit you by any means. I'm going to begin with just facts and stories and helping you recognize the difference between the stories or thoughts are what hurting us emotionally are. All right. And then I'll get to the point of abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse later. But our stories or our thoughts or other people's stories and thoughts, there's a difference. I want to define them both a little bit more clearly in the way we're going to use them all this week. All right. Facts are the objects in the world. Okay. So, for example, the dishes sitting in your sink, possibly right now. There's a dish sitting in the sink. There's food. There's toys on the floor. There's laundry in the laundry room, the clothes, the whatever. The name of the president of the United States, what country you live in, the name of your network marketing company, the day you were born, all the facts. They just are things that exist. They're just sitting there. And then, because we are a highly evolved species with human brains, we then have thoughts about these facts in our lives. And they become our stories. So circumstance and facts, thoughts and stories. I'm going to be using both of these words, but circumstance are the same thing as facts and thoughts are the same thing as stories. Okay. Now, our stories about the facts in our lives cause us to feel whatever we're feeling. And this is where things get really complicated, right? We say things like, this house is a mess. We got to get this cleaned up. People are coming over. I have to do everything around here. My upline is so awful. She never helps me. She's so selfish. She's so difficult. Those stories create our thoughts. Now, what's challenging about it is that our brains are not good at differentiating between a fact and a story. And again, 99% of the time, it's fine. Just let your brain do what it does because it works brilliantly well. But there's that 1% of the time when you're going to want to slow it all down and notice that you are believing stories that you think are facts, but they are not, right? And I'm going to give you a ton of different examples where you can look at all of this. That is going to help you sort of make sense of this. And it's going to lay the foundation for this entire week and changing your life and perspective on everything forever. All right. So I'm going to give you an example and then we're going to do tons of examples together. And I just talked to a friend over the weekend who said her team isn't doing well this quarter, for example, and she doesn't have very many points in her company contest. And she was upset about this. She's embarrassed because she's at the top of her company and her team used to do really well, but she's in a lull and her team just isn't producing the way it used to. She's frustrated. She's discouraged. She feels defeated. She has a lot of shame. And I said to her, now your contest points are lower than they normally would be this time of year. That would be a fact, right? We could go to her contest points from last year on this day, and we could figure out where they are. And then we could show her contest points for today. And we could make a claim for her points are less this year than last year because we could actually have those figures, right? That would be a fact. But notice there's a bunch of stories about not having high enough points that are causing her to feel a lot of shame and pain. Can you relate? But not having a certain amount of points is actually not painful. It's not even embarrassing. It's not discouraging. It's not frustrating. It's not any of those things. It's just a fact. What is painful is the story she has about the points in her company contest today versus what they were a year ago, right? The story she has, that's the big deal. I said to her, what if it's not even a big deal what your points are? Who cares? You might not sweep the contest. She said, she said to me like, well, you don't understand because you've always had a team that wins everything. And she's right. My team's never gone through what she's going through. So she said, I don't understand her. And she said, her story is true, that it is a big deal to be behind the way she is. She said, if you don't sweep the contest, especially in the first quarter of the year, then you're behind all year. But that's just a story that if you don't sweep the contest in quarter one, that it's a big deal. It's just a story. It's a story that she can totally keep. But it's a story that right now is creating a lot of emotional pain for her, not sweeping the contest in quarter one. It's actually not painful at all to not sweep a contest or not hold your rank. It's not actually painful. The fact of it is not painful at all. It's the story of what you think about it that is the painful part. The story you tell yourself about it. You with me? Okay, so I'm going to bring people on live a little bit later, and that's when it's going to really land for all of you. You don't even have to come on live, by the way, for it to land. Okay. You need to hear other people come on live for it to land. So let me pop in the Q&A box first of all and take some questions. So go to the Q&A box and tell me what your questions are. You guys are saying hello. Hello, Emily from Texas. Hey, girl. Hey. Tell me what questions you have about your business in the Q&A box. What are some problems that you are having? If you can't find the Q&A box, it is just over there on your Zoom. If you look at the bottom, and there is a little box that says Q&A. Caitlin says, 15 minutes in and you're already blowing my mind. Good. I'm so glad you're here. Heather says, it's hard to find people who want to share like I do. Anyone else have that problem in their business? Yeah, I can't get business builders. Same. This is what people are saying. Yes. Okay. So there's going to be a couple of things here that are facts, and all the rest is going to be a story, right? So I'm going to, you guys are all having the same one. This is so perfect. So you said people not wanting to share the business, only the products. Same. Okay. So now is the part, like I said, it's tricky to do because it feels like this is a negative fact, right? You're like, oh, this is so negative about my business, right? That people don't want to do the business with me. I can't find anyone who wants to share like I do, right? I'll have clients tell me, you know, I can't get anyone to do this with me. And I'll ask them, with the exception of one person in 7 years, right? I'll say, you've never signed someone up before. And they said, no, I've signed people up. I've signed probably, 30 people up over the course of 3 years. And I said, but the story you're telling is you've never been able to get a single person to do this with you, right? There's only been one exception to this rule where I have a client who literally in 3 years has never been able to sign even one person up. So then we are able to say that was a fact, right? But when you think that it's a negative thing, that you can't get anyone to do the business with you, right? That's where you are thinking that this is a negative fact about you. But the thing about the fact line, the thing about the circumstance line is that it's totally neutral. There are no negative circumstances, even though we're going to choose sometimes a thought like, this is terrible that I lost my rank or my business builder left to another company or whatever. It's okay to think those things. There are many, many circumstances that I choose to think this was terrible. This was a terrible thing that happened. This morning, I had a friend send me an article about a Chinese airliner that crashed and everyone on board died. And I choose to think that is a terrible thing that has happened, right? It's okay to believe that some things are terrible. But what I know is that this thought that this is terrible is what is creating my emotion, not the circumstance, not the plane crashing that is causing me to feel terrible. The plane crashing is totally neutral. It's me thinking, oh my gosh, that's awful, that's making me feel sad. It's my thought about the circumstance that is what is creating my emotion, not the circumstance itself, okay? So that's the first thing that you have to do. You have to become empowered, because when you write these questions to me, like, I can't get any business builders, I can't find anyone who wants to share like I do, right? What's happening is that the way you write it, the question is you're giving all of the power, You're giving all the power to this fact that you don't have any business builders, and then you're mourning it and grieving it. And so it makes you stuck. And then you're making it even more painful and more limiting in your life, almost like you're a victim of it, like you're the problem. But you are the problem, but not the fact that you don't have any business builders. It's that you think that you can't get any business builders that is the problem, because anything that you think will eventually show up as your result. So if you believe that you can't get any business builders and you can't find anyone that wants to share like you do, you're going to feel emotions like deflated, discouraged, right? And then in your actions, you're going to avoid reaching out, going live, getting on a team call, doing an event. And because those actions are happening, your result is going to be, I don't show up. I don't find business builders, right? And you think it's because you don't have any, but that's not right. The only problem is that you think that you can't do it. And that's why it's showing up in your result. Okay. I just want you to notice the difference. So I'm not saying you have to let any of these thoughts about yourself go even. You can totally continue to believe that you can't get any business builders. You can totally believe that it's a cost issue, right? Or that it's a vulnerability issue. You can totally believe all those things, right? I just want you to notice the difference between the facts and the story. Again, this is challenging to do. Right? Like when I was talking to my friend this weekend and I said, it's totally fine not sweeping the contest. You don't even have to be mad at your team or your company. And she was like, well, I don't think I'm ready to not be mad about this, which is fine. But notice what she's saying. I don't think I'm ready to not be in emotional pain over my points. She was saying, I want to stay in emotional pain. And there are times when we do this. I would argue it's not necessary for that though, because but it is totally fine if you just want to be sad or you just want to feel defeated. And what I wanted her to know is that she was creating the pain for herself. It's not her team or her company or her lack of skill. It's not the contest. It's none of that. Okay. So what you've got to do, for example, my friend, we have to begin by separating it out. This part's the fact. These are the points. And these are all my thoughts about it. Like, oh, interesting. Because here's the second thing I want to teach you, right? The first thing is that facts don't hurt. It's our thoughts about them that create our feelings. Our thoughts create our feelings. And it's our thoughts that hurt, not the fact themselves. Facts do not hurt. Facts are harmless, right? The second thing I want to teach you is the stories we tell about the facts in our life are also optional. There are thoughts and there are optional thoughts. There are facts, and facts aren't always optional though, right? We don't always get to control them. Like this person said this circumstance was handed to me. That will happen to us over and over and over again throughout our lives, because we cannot always control our circumstances. In fact, usually we can't control our circumstances, but we can always choose our thoughts, always. Unless somebody injects you with some kind of like a chemical that manipulates your brain, like in those sci-fi movies, when they like put something, put something in your head and they, stick something on the side of your head and then they can like manipulate your thoughts. Otherwise, unless that happens, you get to choose what you're going to think 100% of the time. Nobody gets to control that for you. It is the blessing and gift that God has given us, power to choose what we want to think for ourselves. No one else can control that for you. If you're a parent like me, this is sort of bad news because you want to control your kids' thoughts sometimes. You've tried to control your spouse's thoughts. You try to control other people's thoughts in the world, like your team or your downline, right? If you are an adult at this point in your life, You know, you're going to try to troll humans all the time, but it just doesn't work, right? But that's okay. We do not even need to control other humans to be successful. And if controlling humans worked, I'd be all in. But it just doesn't work because we can't control other humans, which is actually great news. The good news is we get to choose what we're going to think, and no one else gets to control us, right? Which means we get to choose what we're going to feel. And no circumstance or facts dictates or creates that for you. I promise. Separating out the facts from the stories. Again, I'm going to bring people on in just a minute and we're going to do real life examples of it. But we're going to practice it here together all week long. And I have a bunch of sentences here. I'm going to move my little chart here. And I want you to ask yourself, I'm going to show them to you here. But I want you to ask yourself, of the sentences that I wrote on the board here, I'm going to bring them for you now. Okay. I wrote all these sentences for you. Let me make sure you can see it here. Okay. And I want you to ask yourself, is this a fact or is this a story? Or another way to look at it, is it a circumstance or is it a thought? Right? And we're going to go through these things together. Okay. So look at this one right here. It's cold outside today. Tell me in the chat if you think this is a thought or a fact. It's cold outside today. A lot of you are saying that you think it's a fact, and now a bunch of you are saying a thought, right? Somebody says that it's a fact that it's cold. Cold outside, fact. Okay, so I'm going to push back on you here. It's cold. Outside is a thought. It's a story. The fact would be, before I got on this call, I checked that it's 36 degrees outside here in Draper, Utah today. I asked my Alexa, right? The fact would be that it's 36 degrees outside. My thought, my opinion might be that it's cold outside, but somebody who lives in Alaska might say, that's not cold. That's bikini weather. Right? When I used to live in southeastern Idaho and it would be -30, by the time it warmed up into the 30s, we were stripping down into tank tops and shorts because it felt so hot, right? So it's cold outside is actually a thought, right? Because not all of us would agree on it. Some people are going to look at 36 degrees and they're going to say, oh, that's cold. And then others are going to say, that's not that cold, right? And so it's cold outside is a thought. Now, I probably have other thoughts like, I don't want to be cold, or somebody else may have the thought it's cold outside. And I love it when it's cold. So it's cold outside is a thought for me. And that might create a negative feeling for somebody else. It might create a positive feeling because of other thoughts they have about it being cold. But still, it's cold outside is a thought. It's just an opinion. It's subjective. It would be a different fact for you than for me, right? So this is what I mean. The brain is tricky. Brains are tricky, right? Okay, we're going to do another one. This is so good. Yes, exactly. Emily said, it's a thought, depends on actual temperature. Right. So let's look at this one. I live in Draper, Utah. Is this a fact or a thought? What do you guys think? Everyone's saying fact. Yes, it's a fact because I can show you proof of residence, right? Like when I go to get my driver's license, or I just enrolled my son in high school and they require 3 different forms of proof of residence because everybody wants to go to the high school in our neighborhood. And so you have to have an address within a certain boundary to attend the high school that our kids are going to go to. So I was able to prove 3 different forms of proof, bills, things like that, to prove that I live in Draper, Utah. That's a fact. Okay. Now the temperature is 36 degrees. Fact or story? Yes. Also a fact, right? We can confirm, we can use a thermometer. We could prove it in a court of law. It's a fact, right? How about this one? My upline is difficult. Fact or thought? Oh, you guys are such fast learners. You're such fast learners. Yeah. Now sometimes I'll have clients say to me, no, she is. My upline is so difficult and everybody thinks so. Even the presidents of our company think so. Right? We could give you 300 examples of how she's difficult, and yet it's still just a thought and a story, right? Okay. What about she's making poor decisions? Think about your teenagers. She's thinking poor decisions, right? We'll say, no, she is. Like, look what she's doing. She's drinking. She's sleeping with her boyfriend. Whatever we want to say, right? And some of us will think she's making poor decisions, and other people will say, I don't understand what the problem is, right? That's how we know it's a thought. We don't all agree on it, right? Also, another indicator that it's a thought is it makes you have a feeling, right? Facts are harmless. Okay. He left me or she left me. This is a good one. This is a really good one. He left me or she left me. What do you guys think? Okay, now, yeah, some of you are like, ooh, she's trying to trick me, right? What you're telling me in the end is that he left me, right? And if we're talking like actually physically leaving, right, we got to understand more details. But very rarely do I give this to a client of being a circumstance, because this is actually a thought. This is a story that he left me, right? How often do you talk to people, like talk to like a couple that ended a relationship? Like, do you have friends that have divorced, or maybe you've been divorced before, and one of them has one version of the story of who left, and the other one has another version, right? Like, oh, well, she left me a long ago when we stopped connecting emotionally. So again, when you think he left me, how does it feel? Probably doesn't feel awesome, right? Yeah, it gives you all the feelings, right? It's a story. And it's not really a useful story here if it's bringing a lot of negative emotions, right? So you have to understand it's sort of like, because we have so many thoughts, right? And all the time about any circumstance, our brains tend to simplify it for us by giving us a title of the story, right? Like we sort of sum it up in one sentence. Like, oh yeah, my level one, she jumped to another company, right? And then we have feelings about it and stories about it. But if you said it to someone that's not in network marketing, they might be like, what's the big deal? She got a new job. What's wrong with that? I do that all the time in my corporate job, right? So we kind of want to, if your story is he left me, it may or may not be serving you. And there may be another thought available to you that allows it to feel a little bit better, that's more empowering, right? Like the relationship was complete. Our time together ended. Our business relationship is over, right? So how often do you describe workers on your team like, she quit working the business, or my workers all quit? And you think you're telling me facts about your team and your business, but really you're just telling me a really painful story about your business. It's still a thought. These are still thoughts. We just want to choose one that feels empowering instead of one that defeats us, okay? So here's another one. The pandemic made things hard. Is it a thought or a fact? The pandemic made things hard. What do you think? Yeah, it's a thought. It's a thought, because actually some of us think the pandemic made things easier. Some people think it made it easier. Other people think it's hard, right? So it is a thought. It's a story, right? When the pandemic happened, my husband said to me, Emily, your life's not really going to change that much. You've been doing grocery delivery since 2016, right? And I don't like, I don't mind to not travel. I don't mind. I mean, homeschooling kids, that thing was real rough for me. I'm not going to lie. I'm a school teacher, and I have always said my children would be dead or illiterate if I had to homeschool them. And it was pretty right on. Okay. So it's still a thought though, right? Okay. I picked this one because I wanted to point out that there are people offering us thoughts all of the time as well. We're all circulating thoughts with one another. That's how we are. As human beings, we interact with one another. We try to make sense of the world around us. We try to decide what's true and what's real and what we should be thinking about and what we should ignore and what's good and what's bad. We try to come to these decisions together, which can be really useful, but I just want you to be cautious. I don't want you just to take the stories and offer it to you without questioning some of them and deciding if this is the way I want to think about the world right now. Like, do you want to believe that it's hard to get business builders just because everybody says that? Or do you want to believe that it's really easy to find business builders? I think it's really easy to find business builders. Do you want to believe that money is really hard and it takes a lot of time and energy and suffering to get it? Or do you want to believe that money is really easy? I believe that money is just easy and it's just so easy to come by, right? So we all just want to decide, like, how do you want to experience your life? And I see this all the time in my network marketing company, right? Like, one person's team slows down. And so leaders will begin to talk with each other, seeing if everyone's teams are slow or if it's just you. And if it's just you, then your brain thinks, okay, this is a problem. But if you can find enough teams struggling, then it must be the company or the back office or the products, right? With back office issues, this is so fun. If points are low at the end of the month, you'll see people on the company pages, and I do this too. So I'm not even saying that this is something bad or wrong. It's just something that I started noticing when I got into coaching, that I do this as well. And it's interesting what our human brains do, right? But the points are low at the end of the month. So people start talking about something being wrong with the system, and sometimes it is the system, but other times it's just that points are low, but everyone starts convincing each other that there's something wrong with the system. And soon enough, there's a full-on witch hunt going on. And we've all texted the presidents of the company in a panic. Right. And when you're in that moment and you're just spinning, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is a huge problem. Right. And I want you to be cautious and sort of stop yourself and think, is this the way I want to think about my life or my business? This is a question I'll ask a lot when I can see myself spinning out in these situations. Let's go back to this sentence. The pandemic has made a lot of things harder. A lot of people would say, oh no, that's just a fact. The pandemic has made a lot of things harder. And I would say it's not a fact. It's a thought. It's a story. It's perfectly fine to believe that story, but ask yourself, is this serving you? Right? If it's not, if you're in a great deal of overwhelm or self-pity or confusion or despair or fear, then it might not be what you want the main title of your story to be, right? Okay, here's one last one. People shouldn't lie. What do you think, guys? Is it a fact or a thought? People shouldn't lie. I mean, people shouldn't lie, right? Doesn't everyone think that like people shouldn't lie? It's a thought. It's a thought that should be a fact, says Samantha, right? But the people who are lying in the moment when they're lying, some of them may think it's not even a big deal to lie. So we're not going to make it a fact. We can't prove it. It's just a thought again, and it's totally fine to think that thought. I'm not trying to take any of these thoughts away from you. I'm just trying to empower you that most of the sentences running through your head are thoughts. They're not facts, which means they're up for grabs. They're up for grabs. Right? Like, I love her, or I love him, or I love them, or I love that show, or I dislike that show, or I dislike that thing, right? These are all thoughts. They're just observations about yourself, observations about what's true. It's not just, I noticed I loved her. It's, I love my daughter. No, it's a thought. It's a choice. It's a story. And it's a thought that probably serves you, that you want to keep. right? Some of the thoughts we want to keep. When we think we love her, we feel a really useful feeling called love or compassion or empathy, and it's really useful. Okay. So that was our little quiz. See how I helped you with it? And what I want to do, yes, sometimes we lie to not offend people, right? But get this, right? If our thoughts create our feelings, then no one can hurt our feelings except ourselves, right? Nobody can hurt your feelings. You're the only one that can hurt your feelings with what you think about what someone says or does. They are just your circumstance. And then you have a thought about it, and your thoughts create your feelings. So anytime that you're like, oh, she hurt my feelings, I would push back on you and say, who hurt your feelings? You hurt your feelings with what you thought. Again, we'll talk about emotional abuse and physical abuse a little bit later, right? But what I want to do is bring some people on now, and we're going to talk about what's going on in your life. And we're just going to be separating the facts from the thoughts. So if you're coming on, if you're not coming on, right? If you want to come on and be coached by me right now, raise your hand. And you can't be driving or like in the shower or going to the bathroom. We don't want to see that, right? If you raise your hand, I'm going to take that as you are ready right now to come on live. And I'm going to coach you here for about 5 or 10 minutes about something in your life. Okay. And we're going to separate the facts from the thoughts. Now, if you're not coming on live and you're just listening, like you're driving in your car right now, you're doing something else, you can't be coached right now, it's okay, right? I want you to take whatever your situation is as you're listening to me coach someone live. I want you to think of a situation in your life and start separating out the facts from the thoughts in your life. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go here. And I'm going to pick someone to be coached. Okay, Mandy, I'm going to promote you to panelist, and you can leave your hands raised. I'm going to coach more than one person. So I'm going to promote Mandy to panelist. And then Mandy, if you'll turn your video and your sound on so that we can see and hear you. There she is. We can see you. Now we just need you to unmute. Yay, good.
Yeah, except there's this weird thing going on with the background.
Oh, it's like, it's almost like when you take your picture in like portrait mode and it makes you clear, and then the background, it's very, very chic. I'd say we go with it.
Whatever. My office looks cool, just so you know.
Okay. There's got to be some filter on it or something.
Yeah.
How it does that.
It's a skill.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me something that's going on in your life, and we're going to separate out the circumstances from the thoughts, or the facts from the stories. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me.
So I typically sleep very well.
Okay.
But just this past little while, I've been waking up around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning with the stress of life in my mind, which I've usually been pretty good at not having be an issue. But I accepted a new position at a new real estate office, and also I'm trying to promote in Plexus, and I'm just constantly worried I'm not going to do the right things that are needed between that and taking care of my kids and homeschooling and everything else. And also, like, I don't know, I was just at leaders retreat. So, I walk around diamonds and all these people. And to me, it's like, I believe in all of the people on my team and that they can do that. And there's something there that makes me think that maybe I'm not qualified to be good enough as a realtor in this new office, good enough to be diamond. These are like things for me, and that won't always happen.
This is so perfect, because everyone felt the same way walking around leaders retreat in Florida last week, just like you. Even the diamonds. I promise.
Well,
I know.
I'll take your word for that.
Yes. Okay. So let's separate the facts from the stories here. Okay. We're gonna use my paper here, and we're gonna write some down. All right. So tell me, where does I sleep well go when we look at, let's facts, and we can say these are the circumstances, right? And then we have our thoughts, which would be our stories. Okay.
Mhm.
So
So I
tell
sleep
me,
well would be a thought, right?
yes, very
Positive
good.
thought.
Yeah, I sleep well. Now, how could we make it a circumstance?
The, not sure. I mean,
Do
I
you
can give
have
you a
one of
lot of,
those like Apple Watches that tracks your sleep?
I do.
Okay, so we could say I slept this many hours from this time to this time. We
Okay.
still couldn't say I sleep well because that's
Mhm.
when you interpreting the data then makes it a story or a thought.
Okay.
Right. But
Okay.
if we looked at your watch data, we could put some of the data over in the fact line, but having a thought about if it's bad or good would then bring us over into the thought and story.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Mhm.
And so what about 4 a.m. or 5 a.m.? I wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Where does that go?
That's a fact. It
Yes.
just happened.
Yeah, you could say, you could even take a picture of the clock when you wake up and you could be like, I wake up, and how many nights in a row has this happened? We want to get really specific if we're going to put it in the fact column.
Okay. Okay. So even it happening at all is a big deal for me because it's never an issue.
Which
But
is
I
all
would
a
say,
story. I just want to point out to you that that's goes over here, even that it's
okay.
happening at all, right? It's like all this drama. We're like,
Mhm.
I never wake up. I sleep so well. The fact that it's even happening is just so dramatic.
Stupid was my word, but that's cool.
Again,
It
these are
just needs to quit.
descriptive ways that you are telling the story about
Yeah.
the facts of your life.
Okay.
Right?
So
So
I would say 3 times
I
in a row without gap.
I woke up at 4 a.m. 3 nights in a row, right? And your
Mhm.
mind is like, oh, this is bad. But my neighbor in my old neighborhood who does baggage claim for Southwest at the airport, this is just normal for him.
Right. And Lisa Atkinson, my girl, I'm right under her.
Uh-huh.
She's up like around 4 or 5 running her business, doing her
Right.
thing. And so
Yeah.
my thought was, well, maybe when that happens, I just go, why lay here stressing about it? Why don't I just get up and be productive?
Right.
Because it's not
Yeah.
like I'm tired. I don't feel like I lost sleep. I just feel like I gave too much time to anxiety.
Right. Because your brain is like, yeah, this is negative. This is a negative thing that's happening. Right. So we just want to separate out the facts from the story so that we can see what the brain is doing here, because you're having the anxiety, you're having the worry, all coming from the thoughts that you're having about the facts.
Okay.
Right. And that's a really disempowering place to be. Right. Because you're like, oh, woe is me. Right. And it's not going to help you change your life
Right.
because you've given all your power away to like 4 a.m. is so awful.
Right.
Right. Like I
Right.
used to sleep so well. Like this is just so awful.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what about the new position at the new real estate office? Where does that go?
Well, I have the position. That's a fact.
Okay. And what's the name of it?
Um, oh, I work at North Harbor Real Estate.
Okay. So we could say North Harbor Real Estate is a fact, right?
Mhm.
And then what is your title there?
I'm a realtor.
So also a realtor. And you could prove with your real estate license that you are a
Yes.
licensed realtor, right? Again, these are the facts,
Mhm.
right? And then we get to the really juicy part where your brain's like, oh, I'm worried I'm not doing it right. Right?
Yes, I was very successful at my last position. There's a lull happening currently.
And where does there's a lull happening go?
Well, that's fact. I can prove it. I don't have,
Not. It's not a fact.
as far as I don't have clients though.
The actual statement of There is a lull happening
Okay.
is a story.
Ooh,
And it's one that's not motivating you to change it, right? Because when you think this thought, you're probably having feelings like defeated.
it's paralyzing actually, but yeah.
Paralyzing. Yeah, paralyzing. So you think there's a lull happening and you feel paralyzed. So then your actions are going to be something like avoid marketing, avoid having the open house, avoid,
Or scramble and do too many things at once.
exactly, right? Let's outrun it in our action line and see if we
Mhm.
can't change it, right? And so I promise you that believing this story that there is a lull happening right now, whether we're talking about your real estate business or your network marketing business, it's not going to motivate you to do anything other than avoid doing the work.
Okay.
This is why at month end, when the points are low and all the diamonds in the company are like, oh, maybe it's the credit card declines. Oh my gosh, something's wrong with the system. And we're all just like, it actually is not useful whatsoever because it puts panic and fear and doubt in everyone's mind.
And sleeplessness.
Sleeplessness. Yes, all those things, right? And so it's like you can totally keep those thoughts if you want to, but what I want to show you is that they are optional. Right? And it's not just like believing a new thought that like thought swapping, because that actually doesn't work either, right? Because if your brain doesn't believe that it's even sort of true, it's going to be like, liar, we're in a lull. And we're going to show Emily 300 examples with all the numbers of how we're in a lull. Like you even said to me, you're like, no, it's a fact. Like I can prove it to you. The numbers aren't there. Right? But what are the numbers?
As far as what's going on right now.
Like, tell me what your numbers are.
Okay. So I'm just comparing myself to what I typically am doing at this point in time. I only have one deal in contract right now.
So you have one contract in escrow.
Yeah. And one that just closed. And then a possible listing. And that's nowhere near
one. You said
acceptable to me.
You said one that just closed.
One that just closed.
One contract. What day did it close on?
The Tuesday I came back from convention.
So the 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One contract closed 3/15. Okay. And then you said one possible listing.
On Friday.
On Friday. How
I go on
are
Friday.
we going to know? See, that to me goes over here in the story.
Right.
Because
Yes.
you're like, it's a possible listing and your brain's
I gotta,
like,
yeah, he says yes, but I never say
how
until.
are we going to perform right? We can't screw this up. And then we spin out into the worry and the drama and the anxiousness and all of that, right?
Get out of my head.
So, I know, right? It's like I'm a life coach or something that's been trained. One possible listing. Also, my dad was a realtor. He still is.
You get it.
Oh, I totally get it because I grew up in this, right? My dad has done real estate for 35 years. He's been in Forbes magazine, like top 250 in the country. Like he's the real deal. No social media, by the way. Zero still.
That was back when the MLSs were books. I became a realtor to help support myself. So I didn't have to do a cleaning business anymore and I could run Plexus. That's why I became a.
Oh, perfect. I love real estate. It's so fun to walk through houses.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they just announced me and like did a press release on me. I had to have professional photo shoots done. So I went from being like a small town, did really well, but in a small town realtor to being in a classy establishment.
I love the story you're telling here.
Like skilled, but I love being a bougie redneck. So it's been interesting.
Classy, bougie redneck. Where does that go?
That's my fun thing. It's a thought, but I like it.
Yeah. And it's fine. Again, some of our thoughts we can keep. If we like them, if we're like, no, this is helping me show up with an energy that like, I like the result I'm getting.
Yeah.
But I actually would push back on you here because I feel like this story about how you were a small town realtor and now you're in this classy establishment and you're just a bougie redneck realtor, I actually don't think it's serving you.
Okay.
Because your story also about it is like, maybe I'm not qualified. So this story,
They want to move me into the $1 million market and I'm going.
You're like,
I
oh,
wear
that
muddy
sounds
cowboy boots
hard.
and I hunt.
Right. And I'm over here like, let's move me into the $1 million market. I'm ready. I want to
Well,
work
I'm
less
okay
and
with
make
that. I mean,
more.
I want it. I want all of it. But in the
Right.
back of my mind is the whole, can a girl in muddy cowboy boots that goes hunting do that?
Right. Again, that's a question and your brain's going to answer it with a thought. So how does your brain answer it? Does it say no, she can't?
It wonders. It wonders if I'm pushing myself into a place that I'm not wanted or belong in.
But you are a realtor at North Harbor Real Estate. They want you there. They already hired you.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
They went after me.
They're recruiting you.
Yeah.
So when you get all up in this story over here with this doubt and this questioning, it's not serving you at all. It's not helping you show up as your most true, authentic self. Right?
Okay.
So
Feels cloudy for sure.
yes. So just the awareness of what the facts are and what the story is going to give you a lot of leverage in general. And you can totally doubt yourself as much as you want, but for every doubt of yourself, I want you to look for what else is true in equal amounts.
So instead of looking for another thought that may or may not be true, you're saying replace it with a fact.
Replace it with a fact. Yep.
Okay.
Be like, okay, yeah, there's a lull happening. Also, I have one contract in escrow, one contract closed on 3/15. I already did something this month to get a paycheck. Go me.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And then it's totally fine to be like, I'm worried I'm not doing it right. Because I feel like part of success is failure. And if I'm not failing, I must not be trying hard enough.
Right.
Right? Like I gotta fail some to succeed. Right? So
Failing forward.
yeah. So if I'm worried I'm not doing it right, but also doing it wrong is typically how I learn best. So we can still have our doubts and we still might feel anxiousness or worry. We still might wake up at 4 a.m. Right? There you go, being human again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when we're doing something new, sometimes our brain is going to say, danger ahead. This could be a problem. We might mess this up. Because your brain is constantly surveying problems ahead because it wants to conserve energy, seek pleasure, and avoid discomfort. So it's like, no, we don't want to do real estate. We don't want to do Plexus. We don't want to do a cleaning business. We just want to sit and watch Netflix because that is safe.
Hallmark
Channel, whatever. Right?
Yep.
Like that we know the outcome of. I know exactly how I'm going to feel when I sit on the couch and I watch a Hallmark Channel movie.
Yeah.
Even my kids understand this process. My 10-year-old, he's like, Mom, they always just kiss at the end, but it's not a dirty kiss. It's like a nice little peck. It's always classy. You don't ever have to worry. Like, thanks, Chase.
Nice. Predictable and good for no thought. That's right. What it is. You just want
predictable. You know how the outcome's going to go. But guess what? When you are, every time that you have a new listing that goes under contract, unless it's a cash offer, it's not going to be predictable. Even with cash, sometimes it's not predictable.
Yeah, true story.
Like I grew up, my parents were in airlines. My mom was a flight attendant, right? So I grew up with this mindset of traveling on passes. And you're never on the flight until wheels are up. I used to say till doors are closed. And then one time they opened the door and pulled us off and put the revenue people on and pulled us off. And I ended up
My goodness.
at the Las Vegas airport that night. Right? So it's like, even then I was like, see, that's not true. And this is what our brain does. Right? And it's a beautiful part of our brain. We don't even want to change any of this. This is all shows us how smart you are.
Okay.
It's not even a problem, right? But separating the facts from the stories, and then for every story, we want to find a fact to be like, also, what else is true is, yeah, I mean, I have one contract in escrow, one contract closed on 3/15. I totally made money this month. Go me.
Okay.
Right? Okay. I'm going to put you back.
Thank you.
Great. You're welcome. So good. Okay. I'm going to bring someone else on. Caitlin, I'm coming for you. Are you guys liking this? Isn't it so amazing? Your mind is blown, right?
Yes.
Hi, Caitlin. How are you?
Good. I'm super excited to talk to you. I love you.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to talk to you.
Yes.
Okay, what are we going to separate for you? Tell me all the things. Tell me what's going on in your life, and we're going to separate the facts and the thoughts for you.
Okay. So the problem that I'm facing right now, which I'm already feeling convicted, but I like hear it back from you about, is I signed up under obviously my upline, and I've never had a connection with her, but I made a connection with her upline, and there's been drama in the mix, and I feel like I have to like appease this person and like follow her direction, but she doesn't give me direction, and I'm feeling like I can't stand up for myself, but I want to separate myself from that. And so yeah, I feel like I'm allowing it to affect my business, and I don't know how to separate the facts and the feelings.
Oh, this is so good. Okay, I love it. Tell me, tell me what you think the facts are of this story.
The fact is, I am enrolled I'm enrolled under, specifically enrolled under someone.
Okay, so tell me the first and last initial of your sponsor's name.
TR.
TR. Okay, so enrolled under TR. We can say that that is a fact because we can go to your back office, we can look at the profile information, and we can see it'll say sponsor and then her name, and we'll just shorten it for TR.
Yeah.
Okay. What else are the facts?
I am responsible for my points, but that's a feeling.
That is a thought.
That's a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm responsible for my points. Okay, that's a thought. That's a story. And some people will say, no, that's true. You're responsible for your own business. It's fine. But it's still a thought, and you can totally keep it. You never have to give away any of your thoughts. That's the thing, right? Like, I'm going to coach you all week on optional thoughts, but you can keep all your thoughts. You don't even have to change them. There's nothing even wrong with them.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so tell me more. You said something about TR, her upline. Yes?
Yes. Her upline is my best friend.
Okay. This is fun. Where does that go?
Like, what do you mean? Where does that go?
Her upline is my best friend.
Oh, as a thought? I think that's a thought.
It's a thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her upline is my best friend. Yeah, because there's not a test of like, oh, we can prove that you're best friends because it's in the blood.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even if you did like the blood sister thing where you like each put a cut and you like put your fingers together, and all the parents now are like, don't do that. That is so dangerous. Again, also story and thoughts. I would not recommend doing it for anyone listening, but we used to do that when we were kids.
Yeah.
Now we're blood sisters.
Yeah.
Right? Even then, there's
Yeah.
not a blood test for best friend. So it's a story and it goes in the thought line.
Gosh, I'm having a hard time coming up with facts, I think.
I know. But we could say, what are her initials?
JR.
Okay, so
They
JR
are
is TR's sponsor. Yeah?
yes, and sister-in-law.
Okay, and JR is TR's sister-in-law. We could prove that. We could get like marriage certificates and things like that to prove that. I'll give you that.
Right.
Okay, what else?
I'm a senior gold.
Okay, what are your points in your back office on February 28th?
282.
Okay, so my points, 282 on 228. That's a circumstance. That's a fact. We can prove it.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Do we like it?
I feel like I could be doing better with it. That's a thought.
What's the story? Tell me the story.
That I should have been Ruby by now. I've been sitting
Okay.
for 2 years or a year. 2 years.
Okay. I should be Ruby by now.
Oh, I'm gonna get emotional.
And it's almost like there's this story of we're not going fast enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Not going fast enough.
Yeah. I'm pregnant. I'm gonna be emotional. Sorry.
Oh, perfect. I always cry when I get coached. It's fine. Don't worry. Guess what? We just got another fact. I'm pregnant. We get to put that in the fact line. But where does I get emotional go?
Thought.
Yeah, I get emotional a lot. Right? What's coming up for you?
I don't even know. I'm really excited. And I'm like, also like, I'm just feeling super convicted.
To do what?
Like to just quit trying to be responsible for other people's feelings
Okay.
and trying to control the situation. Like I keep having like this perception that my upline should be this, should be this, should be this.
Yeah. How should she be? Are we talking about TR?
Yeah, yeah.
How should TR be?
I think she should be communicative and
She should communicate more.
yeah.
Why? Why should she? Tell me. Tell me everything.
This is good. I think because it makes me feel connected, like I feel worthy in that situation. Like it validates something for me as if I have a leader.
Where do you get your worth from?
God.
Okay. So if your worth comes from God, explain to me how she can act differently to make you have your worth, because the two don't match up.
Yeah, they don't match up at all.
See what the brain is doing there?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, TR, if you could just behave differently and like pretend to be totally different, then it would make me feel a lot better and I'd be able to feel worthy.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how the brain does that. The best news ever. See, you're giving all your power away to TR.
Yeah. Oh,
you're like, if you could behave differently, then I could feel worthy.
Yeah.
And from that place, you're powerless.
Yeah.
And what I want to show you this week is to empower you.
Yeah.
Because you are in absolute control of your points and your success. And she's irrelevant. But right now you've made her out to be this like powerful person that's like the all great mighty Oz. Like if she would just believe in us and communicate more, then we would be Ruby, but it's her fault that we're not Ruby yet.
Yeah. Wow. It's like I feel like this wall has just kind of come up, and that has started the empowerment. You're amazing. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. This is why coaching is so powerful. This is why I believe everybody needs a coach, right? Because you cannot read the ketchup bottle from label from inside the bottle, right? You can't see it in yourself because your brain is like, no, these are just all facts. Like, don't you know my upline? She's like not communicative.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a word, but you made it, so I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, yeah, if
wow.
she communicated more, I'd be going faster.
Yeah.
But
crazy.
when you sit and you think things like, she should communicate more, what's happening? Like, what feeling do you have when you think TR should communicate more?
Unworthy, I guess.
Unworthy. And when you feel unworthy, what my guess is what you probably do is you criticize her, you judge her, you compare yourself to others.
Yeah.
You do things like talk to JR about how TR doesn't communicate, right? And the result, of course, is I don't communicate with myself. You don't communicate with yourself. You don't connect with yourself. Right?
This is so good.
Oh, I'm so glad.
This is exactly
so powerful. What were you saying?
I said this is exactly what I needed.
Yes, I know. Tell everyone. It's going to change your business and your life forever. Right? Because you have this awareness now of like, there's not many facts here. It's just all made up in your mind. You're creating all of it. And you can totally keep doing it if you want to. I'm not even saying that you can't.
Yeah.
You can totally keep doing it as long as you want. But just so you know that whenever you hear the word should come up, and I do this all the time in my coaching community when I'm coaching clients, just like this is what we do every day. And when I hear them say should, I'm like, just so you know that defensiveness comes next and then you mirror it.
Wow.
So whatever you're criticizing them for, they should be communicating more. You're not communicating to her.
Yeah, I'm not.
Right? So you're mirroring it.
Yeah.
So whenever you hear should, like, oh, she should shout me out. She should tell me this. She should give me a report. She should be back. Just know what's coming next is defensiveness. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to mirror that exact behavior. You're going to do it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Yeah. And it's so human of you. We don't even have to like judge. Then a lot of times what happens with my clients is they're like, oh, I'm so awful. What's wrong with me? I'm like, nothing. This is so human. There you go. Being human again. Right? Yeah, it's so normal. Okay, I'm going to put you back now, but that was really great. And I'm so glad you got coached on this because everybody, this is just my thought, but I like my reasons for it. So many people relate to this. This is so good. So relatable. And when's your baby due?
August 27th.
Do you know what you're having?
A girl.
Do you know what you're naming her?
I just said that out loud. It's a girl.
Oh, you haven't told anyone yet? We got to know first. This is so exciting. Are you going to do a reveal? Like a real reveal? Don't worry. Only people that paid for this are going to get this. This is not going on my YouTube channel. We can still keep it from your mother-in-law and your best friend, all those things. We can still keep it a secret and none of us will spoil it. We won't even like vote in the comments of your social media post.
Okay.
We'll be like, we don't know. Could it be a boy or girl? We don't know. Nobody will tell. This is so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is this your first?
My third biological.
Oh, so fun. But your first girl? Is that what you said? No. How many girls? Second girl. You have one boy and 2 girls now. This is so fun. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations. Okay, I'm going to put you back now. Now we know Caitlin's secret. This is so fun. Okay. All right, you guys. So what do I want to talk about? I know we're past time. If you have to get off, I understand, but I'm going to keep talking here. Okay. I want to speak a little bit about the abuse thing right now. Okay. So when you have someone who is like an abusive situation, like somebody is hitting you, right? They're hurting you, right? And I'm going to give you something to think about, and then I'm also going to tell you what I mean by it. Okay. So I'm going to give you something to think about first, and we don't get too worked up about it, because I'm going to tell you what I mean by it next. Okay. So I want you to think of like boxing, right? Like a boxing match. And if somebody hits another person in a boxing match, like a boxer hits another boxer, they have physical pain, right? But they're not having like the same amount of emotional pain than if like a husband is physically beating his wife, right? Like the boxer might be discouraged that they're losing the boxing match, but they don't have the same type of emotional pain that we tend to create for ourselves. Like if I'm in a relationship where someone's abusing me, right? So I'm not saying that you should think of it like a boxer if you are being abused. I'm just trying to illustrate for you that it's still your thought creating your emotional pain, but it's totally fine and appropriate to create that emotional pain for yourself. And if you weren't, that would be alarming, right? Because when someone is physically harming you like that, like that's a normal human response. It's normal to have emotional pain, but I just want to show you that in the very like black and white description of it, hitting someone is not, it's yes, there's physical pain with it, but the emotional pain is very different if you were in a boxing match, like fighting in a ring, versus the emotional pain if someone is abusing you, right? And sometimes we can change a circumstance, right? Like sometimes you might not be able to get the person to stop hitting you, right? I mean, you might try to, that would be ideal. But if you can't, what you can do is get out of that relationship and get away from that person, right? So I'm not saying that you should be sitting around allowing people to mistreat you, whether it be physical or emotional or verbal abuse, or just behavior that you would not want to choose to be around, but removing yourself from it so that you can make it easier for yourself to feel how you want to feel by making it easier for you to think about what you want to think. Because there are situations, as you've seen here, and you'll continue to see, where we don't want to change the circumstance. We don't want to leave the relationship. But I get questions a lot around abuse. And so I just sort of wanted to hit on that a little bit. Like, for example, Caitlin is enrolled under TR. She doesn't want to cancel her account. She doesn't want to change the circumstance, right? Like she doesn't want to leave that work relationship. And so there are some times where we just can't leave, or we don't want to change the circumstance. And there are many, many situations in life where we are unable to leave, or we just don't want to for various reasons, like the ones that we just talked about, right? So it's still, even in an abusive situation, it's still your thought creating the pain. And the reason I like you to know that is because I don't want you to make your perpetrator so powerful, right? So in your mind, when we make that person powerful, like we say, like, oh, I'm in an abusive relationship or whatever it is, we lose our own power. We make ourselves more powerless. And I want you to be the powerful one in your life, because that is absolutely true. You are the most powerful person in your life. And that is challenging to do in some circumstances. I get it. That's where I'm here to help you work through. Okay. But in the end, you are the powerful one, and you are allowed to believe anything you want. And you're allowed to think and listen and believe that no one will ever mistreat you. whether it's your upline that should behave differently or your spouse that doesn't support your business. You get to decide, like, I will not allow that. I deserve better. I will create what I want in my life and in my relationships. I will be okay no matter what. I've got me. Let's go. You're allowed to believe any of those thoughts. And when you do believe that, when you're coming from that foundation, then you're able to, to love other people and be generous and empathetic and serving and kind and good, all of that. And if you have to come from a foundation of being there for you, then the world can feel scary, right? So if you have additional questions about that, feel free to put them in the Q&A, but I just wanted to make sure to speak to that, because a lot of times when you're new to coaching, people have questions about that, right? So, okay. I want to talk about one more example of how someone might say something to you, like, because I thought this was so good, how Caitlin was just saying, like, oh, I'm just, I get emotional a lot, right? And when I was growing up, I had people tell me I'm just overly sensitive, right? How many people on here have ever been told that they are overly sensitive or they're just emotional? Has anyone ever had someone tell you that or say that to you in your life before? Yes, right? Okay. So, yes, all the women, right? And so somebody might say, oh, you're overly sensitive. And you might say, well, that's painful, right? But if someone says the words, you are overly sensitive, we can put that in the circumstance line as a fact, because what people say and do can be a circumstance, but then it's what we think about it that creates our feeling, and our feelings are where we take action from, and our actions are ultimately what drive our results, right? So the quote about being overly sensitive is not actually painful unless you make it mean something negative, right? So if someone says to me, you're overly sensitive, I can think, oh, that's a bad thing. I shouldn't be overly sensitive. Even if they meant it, it doesn't matter. If I think that, then I'm going to feel pain. So my interpretation of their words is what causes me the pain, not their words. Like if they would have said it in another language, like Chinese, that I don't understand, I wouldn't be hurt. I would be like, I don't know what this person is saying. They're not speaking English. I don't understand Chinese, right? Or if if they said the words, but I wasn't around them, so I didn't hear the words, right? Like somebody is gossiping about me right now in their home, but it's not hurting me because I can't hear them because I'm not in the room with them, right? It's not until someone says, oh, did you hear what so-and-so said about you? That then I have a thought of this is bad. And then I feel pain, right? Their words don't make me feel pain. It's when I interpret it and I have a thought about it, somebody else might think, oh, that's a bad thing. Or someone else might take it as a compliment, like, oh, you're overly sensitive. Thank you so much. What a compliment, right? And I'm not saying that you need to think this is a compliment. I'm just trying to illustrate that it would still put their words in quotes, because I want you to see that words like sticks and stones, the words are not hurting. It's the way your brain interprets it that then cause the pain, right? Okay. Let's see. I'm not going to bring on, I was going to bring on one more person, but I feel like we do not have time for that. Okay. So this is what I want to talk about. When you have in your mind, like when you see yourself doing negative behaviors, like for example, if you don't like where your points are in your network marketing business right now, right? Say you don't like where your points are right now, and you are like beating yourself up about it and you're feeling terrible and you're creating more negative emotion, in which it makes more negative behavior. Like you're like, oh, I feel so awful, I'm going to eat a cookie, right? Or, oh, I feel so awful, I'm going to rewatch all 6 seasons of Downton Abbey and I'm not going to do any of my work, right? Because when you're like, another example of this would be like, if you're addicted to drugs or you're yelling at your children, or of course, like there are some chemical things that require chemical treatment, right? Like if you have a pornography addiction or something like that. But still, what I'm saying is feeling badly about it is not going to make it better. So the next step that I want to give you permission to do throughout this week, and then I want you to carry this with you after this challenge is over, is whatever negative behavior that you don't like in your life right now, I want to give you permission to not feel badly about it, which doesn't mean that you have to go and be like, oh yeah, it's totally fine to watch pornography, or it's not totally fine to yell at my kids, or it's totally fine to take drugs. I'm not saying that, right? Like whatever the things are that you want to stop doing, you can just say it's fine, but we don't have to have this like binary outlook on it, because it isn't like it's either bad or it's good. If there's a million thoughts available to us, we can land somewhere in the middle. And when you land somewhere in the middle about yourself, that's where you gain leverage over it. That's where you can begin to be like, oh, maybe I'm just human. Like I gained, like, let's just say, for example, that you gained 20 pounds during the shutdown in the pandemic of 2020, right? You could, instead of being like, oh, we're so bad, we shouldn't have eaten all those foods, we're not a product of the product, how can I sell my supplement? How can I sell my supplements? You could be like, gosh, I'm really glad that was a scary time. I'm so glad I had food to comfort me during that time. That was really lucky that I had all that food available to me to make myself feel better in a really scary time, right? So we have the whole English language, or whatever language you choose to speak from. And our options are not just it's terrible or it's fine. I mean, you can go to that if you want, but you might want to find something that feels like true to you, but doesn't create this feeling of shame and hopelessness, right? Like one of my favorites in these types of situations, and you've heard me say it here on this call, is there I go, being human again. I'm just a human being. I'm just trying to feel better. And that's not the way I want to continue to engage or what I want to do to feel better, but it's okay that I did it. I understand that I was just a human, and that was the best I was capable of behaving in that moment. And I love me anyway. And I'm just as valuable and amazing and good as if I had never done that thing, right? Like it's totally fine if you gain 20 pounds in the pandemic and you're still, working for a health and happiness company, right? Like you were just sad sometimes. You're not happy all the time, right? And it's possible for you to create whatever you want for yourself and your future, but being done beating yourself up over it is the first step, right? And this really comes in handy when I'm coaching clients about losing their rank in their network marketing company or not ranking up. I teach them that they're just as lovable, like I'm just as good when they avoid their work or go get a different job to make a little more income because they've fallen back. Then they feel this guilt and this shame. And I tell them to think about themselves in this way, like I just engaged in something that I don't want to continue doing, but I'm not mad at myself for doing it. That was the way I coped with how I was feeling in that moment. And it's tough being a human. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you can think anything you want to, but creating shame and hopelessness around where your points are and your rank is only going to keep you stuck in that spin. I promise. Okay. But if we're going to be like, yeah, it's fine. Like my points fell back. I've got some work to do. It's totally fine. It was always supposed to happen this way. And I'm ready for change and I'm ready to do something different. And I'm ready to move forward. That's going to help you get out of that spin. And from a place of, like neutrality or even peace, that's going to help you take action that's going to be more cohesive with the result that you want. Because when you're choosing a lot of thoughts that are creating a lot of shame and hopelessness around your rank or your business or your paycheck or whatever, it's just going to keep you stuck there. And that's not what we want to do. Right. And so the biggest thing is we're afraid that our life is being limited by our actions. Right. And so we just want to redirect and find a thought that feels believable to ourselves. But I love the thought that we are in control of all of the outcomes in our life. Right. Okay. Let's see. Gina says, you are so amazing. And I'm so very thankful I found you through our company. And I look forward to change, growth, and failing I'm going to be doing going forward with you coaching me. I'm so excited, Gina. This for me, like when I found coaching in this style and this method, I knew that I had to do something with it because it's just so powerful. So I'm so happy for you. Okay, let's see. Okay. I mean, we could have done like 3 hours today with how much I prepared for you guys. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I want to wrap up by giving you this one last thing. Okay. And I just want to thank everybody for listening today. And I want you to, for the rest of the day today, think about facts versus stories and separate them out in your mind. You can just make 2 columns for any situation, even if you just do it in your head or you do it on your phone or you write it on a piece of paper, it doesn't matter. Right. So even when you say to me things like, you know, I don't know how to stand up for myself, or I don't know how to be assertive, that's not a fact. That's a thought, right? If you're saying things like, I don't have the personality for this business or whatever, the way that you do this work is you make it factual, right? You go, when was the last time that I was at this function and there were these people and they were talking about this subject and they said this thing and I had this thought, but I didn't say it. Now that's a fact, right? And then you pause and you go, what if that's neutral? Like, what if I just ignore all those things that people are saying? What if I ignore the chats? Like you should have said something and whatever. And then you just went and you know, like did something human, like you gossiped about someone or you overate or whatever. And what if all of that is just fine? What if it's just nonsense? What if you're just being a human being? Like, what if your points in your back office go behind and you stopped working for 6 months and now you're like beating yourself up for stopping and you feel like you can't even start over again? Mandy puts crackers away. Eat the crackers. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, good thing there was some food out there to help you, right? And you're not even going to be mad at yourself about any of it. Because when you can stop being mad at yourself for not bringing in the business builder, the dream teamer, not having your points where they need to be, like if you can just not be mad at yourself, when you stop being mad at yourself and you can get to a place of curiosity about it, then you will discover a lot of amazing things about yourself. But as soon as we start shaming ourselves, we want to hide again. So I want to encourage you this week, especially as you're doing this challenge with me, to be curious, but not judgmental about yourself about it. And so before you get to curiosity, I tell everyone, we're just not going to judge it anymore. We're done with judging ourselves and our businesses and where they've been. There's just zero reason to not love yourself. You're 100% lovable. Everything about you. What if I'm right about that? All right. Okay. So you guys, this is your assignment for today's class. I want you to practice separating out the facts and the thoughts beyond yourself. If they're not really facts, right? We don't make it a fact. We don't claim that they are. This process alone will change your life. I'm telling you, we're going to add on to this tomorrow, but we can do more of this. So I will see you there. I hope you'll come. It's at noon every day this week. And then I'll be sending you the recordings every single night by email, because every day I'm going to bring people on just like this. And then you can listen to the replay or not. And if you need any help with anything, you're welcome to email my team, hello@emilygibsoncoaching.com. We are all here for you. Okay. And I'm just so excited, you guys. This is going to be the best week. And I can't wait to continue teaching you. So thanks for being here today, you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.